This one elk tactic changed everything for me. Welcome to Backbone Unlimited. My name's Matt Hartsky. In today's video, I'm going to share with you that one elk tactic that changed everything. I'm talking about a very specific play that started converting encounters into kills more consistently than anything I'd tried before. It's not about luck. It's about patterning elk based on their natural movement and setting up before they know you're even there. Let's talk about how I started killing more bulls by targeting nighttime feeding transitions. Let's be honest. Most hunters miss their shot before the sun even comes up. Here's how it usually goes. You hike in just after first light. You bugle from a ridge top. You hear bulls, but they're already moving into their bedding zones. By the time you close the gap, it's just too late. That used to be me. Chased so many bulls from behind and they just always kept moving away, couldn't catch up. But then I started watching more closely and I noticed a pattern that flipped everything. And here's what I learned. They bed in cooler north-facing timber after they've been feeding in open areas all night, often at lower elevation or wide benches with cover. They're hanging out there at night, and then they're going to travel to their north-facing timber, those thick, shady, secure areas. But the transition zone between the two, that's where the kill can happen, and that's where I have really found my sweet spot. That is the south-facing, thinly timbered slopes, getting that early sun. It's sandwiched between the open nighttime feeding areas or those bottom areas and the dark north-facing bedding timber. Thermals are typically dropping before sunrise. They're headed down, meaning elk are headed uphill. If you sneak into that south-facing ribbon in the dark between the feeding area and the bedding area, you're in the middle of the natural elk funnel. They're moving through and they don't expect you to be there. This is where the tactic really changed the game. I started hiking in the dark well before sunrise. I'd sneak into that thin timber slope between the feed zone and the bedding zone. No headlamp when I got close. Obviously, there's no talking. Careful of all kinds of sound. No gear clinking. Do not want them to know that you're there. Just a soft, slow entrance, getting down there and playing that wind, getting it in my face where I want it. Here's my setup checklist. Get within 200 yards of the lower edge of your bedding timber, right? So below that ridge line over the top where they're going to be bedding. You've got to be in position where the wind thermals are pulling downhill. You want to tuck in just below a known travel path or elk trail. I love that setup where you're just below a big old trail where you know they're coming through. If you don't know how to recognize that, get those trail cameras up. If you don't know for sure if elk are walking on that trail, get those trail cameras out there. I can't tell you how many times early on I would see trails and not see a lot of elk tracks or poop and think, well, maybe there aren't a lot of elk traveling through here. Put a trail camera up and it was elk all the time. It would be an elk highway. They just sometimes don't leave a lot of track unless it's really sandy, muddy type stuff. But if they're on a rocky trail, you're not going to see a lot of sign necessarily. And if they're just traveling through these areas, they're not stopping to feed. They may have already pooped a bunch in other areas, and you may just not see that type of sign. Make sure to be fully set up and still by first legal shooting light. You're not chasing elk. You're already in their path, and that's the difference. You want to be there ahead of time. Once I was set up, I'd wait for a few minutes after light, then I'd run a very, very light calling sequence. Usually something like a single cow mew. Wait. A soft, non-aggressive bugle perhaps. Then go silent for at least 5 or 10 minutes. Why does this work? Bulls are moving from feed to bed, right? They often respond out of curiosity or because they're looking for cows already headed to bedding. So this is the best form of cold calling there is, in my opinion. Sometimes you'll catch a bull just passing through and he'll veer your direction. We have had this happen dozens of times. It's not about being loud with your calling either. It's about being there first, sounding like a natural part of the herd and the environment, and letting elk make the mistake, right? Letting them come in nice and calm and relaxed. I've killed multiple bulls using this exact tactic, especially early in the season when they're vocal but not really fired up yet. Sometimes the bull comes in completely silent. Other times he answers from 150 yards down, then just drifts closer without much sound at all. And occasionally the full herd will just walk on up the trail right up the ridge. A few years ago, my son Saxon and I slipped into one of these zones before light, just as the sun was cresting. I let out a soft cow mew. 10 minutes later, part of our plan that he understood, he let out a soft bugle. 5 minutes later, I had a satellite bull, little 6, standing 30 yards away, trying to locate me. One shot, clean pack out. It was all timing and setup, not special skills or gear. This tactic works if and only if you get these things right. You've got to know the terrain. You have to e-scout and confirm where elk feed at night. You have to know. You've got to check out those bottom areas. You've got to look for those feeding areas on X ahead of time and know that. Get boots on the ground whenever possible. Get trail cameras up whenever possible, right? Locate the timber that they bed in daily, right? Know where they're going over the ridge to bed. Identify the thin transition slope in between those two spots, and you've got it made. Make sure that you're there early. I can't stress this enough. You need to beat the elk there, right? You're not hoping to get in there and call to them and get that bull fired up in a traditional calling way, right? It's a kind of a ambush calling sequence where you're just already in the right area. The other advantage of getting in there super early is being able to hike in while the thermals are consistent and going downward so you can set up appropriately. Obviously, you're staying silent and you're just really trying to get in there quickly so you can stay invisible and get set up exactly where you want with your back against some kind of shrubbery and trees, right? I'll see a lot of people make the mistake, new hunters make the mistake of trying to get behind stuff. And the two problems with that are, one, I believe that animals are looking for movement behind. They're looking for predators to ambush from behind bushes and trees, and they can spot that movement really well, right? So you want to be in front so that it breaks up your outline, being in front so little movements aren't nearly as noticeable. The other part of that is so many times if you're behind something, you're going to feel pinned down, like you can't move, like if you're going to have to peek out around something in order to be able to shoot. And that just makes a lot of movement that they can pick up on. And so if you're in front, it's just a whole lot easier to stay concealed and to get your bow drawn and things of that nature without being seen. So make sure, tip number 3, part of this strategy, you've got to read the wind. One whiff and it's over. So you could be in the right general area, but you may have to move depending on what the actual wind is doing. So thermals might be going down, should be going down, but what's that wind doing? Make sure that you play that right. You can't just hope that, that elk is not going to smell you if that wind's kind of coming at your side or behind you. If you expect them to come in front of you there, make sure that you've got that wind in your favor, because especially for archery, you're not going to beat it. They're going to smell you before you can get a good shot. So for part of your wind strategy, you just got to be checking that wind constantly. So when I talk about moving into these types of areas that have been magic for us, as soon as we get up over the ridge, it's wind checker, probably every 50 meters all the way until we get down into where we want to be, checking again one last time as we set up, and then, just kind of monitoring the combination of thermal and the wind, making sure that doesn't pick up, right at first light there and betray you. So just really checking that wind all the time. So I really hope you guys take this one to heart. If you've gotten this far in the video, I just want to tell you, like, this is the strategy that truly changed everything for me. That was not clickbait. This was the first light bulb moment for me where I really started to believe I could kill an elk every year, because I had it figured out that they were going to bed in these types of areas. They were going to head to the feeding. And if I could find those transition zones where I could set up between the two, find some trails in there, that was going to be a consistent highway where there was a lot of elk. And if I could get myself there ahead of time, oh, it really increased my odds. It's when I started becoming confident that I could turn down those raghorns and younger bulls, not afraid to let them walk, knowing that I had a really good opportunity throughout the course of September to kill mature bulls. So I hope that you appreciate this tip, and that you'll spend some time trying to figure it out and put it to good use. Stop chasing those bugles at daylight. Start hunting transitions between the feed and the bed where the elk are already moving. So if you've gotten some value from one of my best secrets, please share it with a hunting buddy, and be sure to leave a comment and let me know if you've tried this already and I'm just late to the game, or if you plan to use it this season. And if you want more advanced tactics, real world lessons, and gear built for serious hunters, please head over to backboneunlimited.com. We have a membership over there. Would love for you to consider being part of Team Backbone. Hunt hard, hunt transition areas, never settle.